company dedicated to enhancing leaders' ability to harness and optimize trust as a strategic business asset.
So we've been talking about trust needing positive expectations and the fact that we need to believe our trust will lead to something good. Otherwise, we won't take the leap to be vulnerable. Is that something you see? Is that something the research supports? I think I find this fascinating.
Yeah, I think so. Positive expectations lead to trust. Negative expectations, I would say, makes us more cautious. And then uncertainty about our expectations, well, that's a whole nother thing. So to define expectation, it'd be the belief that something will occur. Could be good or could be bad, doesn't matter, but our belief that something will occur in the future. But then positive just means something desirable, something we want or need is just desirable to us, but that can change by person.
Yeah, and it seems as though, and we've talked a bit about how trust is really motivated from our own self-interest and moving something forward personally. However, that could probably be not just for us personally, it could be for a team, it could be for organization, it could be for a society, right? So there is an opportunity to broaden that perspective in terms of our interests. But
Yeah,
what
I
if we think there are
agree.
going to be negative outcomes? What happens? What happens when we think there might be negative outcomes?
I think there's different things that we process as related to trust. Trust is occurring in our mind. It's not our behavior. And so it's occurring in our mind. And if we perceive, and it's all about trust about our perceptions as well. So we may perceive well, we may not calculate very well. Everyone does it differently. And so our perception that someone is trustworthy or not trustworthy, that will lead to the decision to trust or not trust. Our self-interest, though, our trust is driven by our interests. Like you said, our interests, though, can be varied. And so we can have others' interest in our mind when we are thinking about should we trust. And so we make that choice to trust based on how strong our desire is for that interest that we have, and then calculating in our mind how positive, how negative do we think the outcome will be if we make ourselves vulnerable to the risk.
Yeah, it's always a reward calculation that we're doing, right? It's a constant going through that calculation. It makes me think about, in times of change, which, that's been said, the only constant is change. Our world moves quickly. There's so much uncertainty and ambiguity that we see. And I feel like that is leading to or leads to people being a little more protective of their information, of their vulnerability, of willing to collaborate. Is that natural for people to pull back in times of uncertainty?
I think so. In the organizational environment, I mean, you could be talking about the public sector, the for profit, the nonprofit, it doesn't matter. In any organizational context, when change is occurring, and change it occurs continuously, but then we notice it episodically at times too, when there's large change that's quite noticeable. And so, yeah, org change is always occurring, and sometimes we're aware of it, sometimes we're not. But when we become aware of it, because trust is about perception, when we note it, when it comes on our radar and we notice changes occurring, that could cause us to pull back. We become more cautious. Some people, but some personalities that love risks, like man, here's an opportunity, jump right into that risk. Let's get in on the ground floor of that thing. Let's do something that will get us more capital. Let's take more risk. So personality comes into play at that point.
Yeah, fascinating because trust is contagious too, right? If there's someone who's stepping out, offering that olive branch, extending trust, others tend to follow more in suit. This is interesting. It makes me think of an example, in a organization, maybe where performance, and we often see true character when performance is not where it needs to be. And coming to a conclusion or figuring out how to solve that problem or how to enhance performance requires all the different components of the organization to come together and really be vulnerable, right? And yet, in some cases, and one particular I'm thinking of, is there was such a protection of their own information and a non-willingness to share that or be questioned about that. So I think of in terms of sales and marketing and finance and maybe forecasting, human resources, they're coming together and trying to solve, like, why is our performance where it's not supposed to be? And in this one particular case, there was a reluctance for, say, sales to ask questions of anyone else and even though the sales organization was willing to open up because they're accountable to the number, they were willing to open up and share their information. There was not a two-way street there. So it created this environment where there was not the ability to really solve the problem together because the transparency was reduced and a protection of their own department. I'll go back and solve it for my own department, but I'm not willing to solve it collectively for the organization. That's natural behavior, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, when you enter an organizational environment, anytime you come together as an organization, you have a mission that's driving you, but you're not always on the same page. And sometimes there's siloing between different departments or divisions or teams. And if the leader is unable to bring together teams and team leaders towards serving the mission, well, then that can happen where we protect our own, in times of change, where it's exogenous to the organization and it's scary. There's lots of reasons to fear, maybe job loss or loss of influence for our team within the organizational structure. And so, yeah, we pull back and we look to our own interests, and we are less likely to collaborate and look for opportunities for partnership where our interests align for a mutual enlightened self-interest.
So fascinating. Yeah. In times of change, when we really need people to be vulnerable and step in and collectively solve a problem or solve the transition, our natural human tendencies, our brain want to protect, right? It's fight or flight. And so we often want to protect and retreat. And in fact, what we do need is people really extending that olive branch, extending the trust, and believing that together, sharing that information is going to be a benefit to us individually as well as collectively.
Yeah, so looking for opportunities to optimize the trust, not only maximize it, but look for the opportunities to optimize it at the right times. Well, then that's really going to serve the whole organization much better.
I think, you're right on, Anthony, in terms of that optimization at the right time, the right place, the right person, that emotional intelligence that comes along with that. It's something people are always calculating. And as much as as someone who extends trust naturally, would like to think that I don't have to make that calculation, it benefits me also to stop and really assess whether I need to be more trustworthy or just work on that optimization of trust. So I'm sure we've got tips and tricks for people that are listening out there that this is something they struggle with and something they like some additional help with. What is your recommendation for them, Anthony?
Yeah, I think connecting with us at a deeper level, we love having this conversation together, the two of us, and then welcoming you into that through the questions. So comment and then also engage with us, contact us. We want to have a deeper conversation with you about your very specific and unique organizational context and the concerns that you have and opportunities as well. So join us in doing that.
Excellent. You can always find us at trustisthedifference.com. Find us on LinkedIn or YouTube. However you've gotten this to this point, grab us, ask a question, and we'll be excited and eager to respond.